It's a pleasure to have you with us. Today in this presentation, we're going to talk to you about the U.S. and global retail trends and also the millennial consumer. And I'll give you a little insight into the different generations so you're aware of that before we get started. So we'll go ahead and get started. I know you guys are busy, but we want to give you some informative information before you go today. So I've kind of gotten through the first part. We'll start with the Retail 2030 and we'll just keep going. So within the retail section, looking toward trends into 2030, we're going to look at a couple different areas, lifestyle brands, also just the surge of on-demand shopping, social shoppers, and just some of the change in the supply chains, how retailers are trying to adapt to these different issues. Before I get started, I wanted to share this slide with you. So today we'll talk some about millennials. I'll even give you an ending on the younger generation. But just so you know the years that the different generations were born and who they are, I just wanted to show you this chart. So you can see, if we look at the oldest consumers, they're called the boomers, who are ages 52 to 70. They were the largest generation in the US for a long time. Now we see a new large generation of the millennials. Then we have the Gen X, who are ages 37 to 51. Millennials, ages 16 to 36, roughly. And then we have the youngest generation, Generation Z. They're also called the Centennials, and they're about just being born now, continuing to be born, some being born as we speak, to ages about 15. So just to give you an idea, today I'll focus on that millennial generation, which is currently the largest generation in the US, and on a global basis accounts for about a quarter of all consumers. In the US, they account for about 1/3 of all expenditures overall. So an important market for us to understand and discuss with you today. So let's get started. First, we're going to take a look at some sales information. So what you're seeing here is different countries and regions. And if you look in the top left corner, this is the expected expenditures on apparel by 2030 in billions of US dollars. So what you can see is that there's supposed to be an increase around the globe of about 48% in expenditures on clothing. There's some countries that stand out where we expect to see double-digit growth. That's China and India. And then if we look at some developed countries like the European, or regions like the European Union, but also the US, the expected growth there is from 19 to 23%, much slower than China and India. We're expecting to see about 1 to 2% growth. We see similar results for Latin America or South America with about South America with about 39% growth by 2030. So this is just to give you an understanding of the expectations for the movement in terms of money spent on clothing. But when we see that some markets are growing more rapidly than others, regardless of how much growth in terms of spending there is, there's always going to be competition from different brands, different retailers, but even from different products for the consumer's dollar when they're shopping for clothing. So it's very important for brands and retailers to keep this in mind, to engage the consumers, and to get them to come into their stores or come online to learn about their brands so they'll buy them. So what we see, from just to give you some examples of what's happening around the world with different brands and retailers, I'm going to give you some examples of that now. For instance, there's a Canadian brand, Lululemon, that's an activewear, but also like a yoga brand that started with women. They have a new store in New York City, and in this store, or in this studio, what they have is the opportunity for consumers to come in and not only buy their products, but engage with them. They have yoga classes. They have more than that. They also have social and community events. They have dinners. They have health professionals come in, talk to them about how to eat healthy, how to be healthy. They also have music that they'll have them come play, music events during the week, or live music, also movies. So what they've done is they've worked with the consumers to really build a community, to socialize with them, to make them part of their brand. And this makes the consumers want to engage and buy their brand and be loyal to them. So this is one way they're trying to capture that consumer's dollars. There's another retailer called North Face, I'm sure you're aware of, that's all over the world. But there's one country in particular that we tend to get a lot of interesting videos from, and I'm going to show you one now. One way they like to engage with the consumers is to give them really unique experiences. So sometimes they set their store up so the consumers come in and there may be a rock climbing wall. And they have to climb up this wall to capture and then jump and capture a jacket. Or they've taken them on dog sledding rides around a mall. And this is a way for North Face, which is about outdoor apparel, is a way to get the consumers to wear the clothing, to understand how it works, and to understand what they can do with it when they're outside and outdoors participating in activities. So this is another event that way they're trying to engage the consumers on one of their new outerwear jackets. That's a warming jacket. And so you can see the video of what they're having the consumers do. They're going to fly through one of their billboards for this new product. So I'll let you watch now. Sound? Oh. You're going to demonstrate?
Stand behind you with a ball sign.
Now I'm going to let you demonstrate the zip line. You want to do that? You want to do that? Good. So that's some engaging experience for the consumers. But it works with their brand. They're for outdoors. They want people to take risks and do things in the outdoor space. And this is a way for them to engage the consumer with their products. So what we find in our research that we do, and I don't know that I mentioned this up front, is we conduct a great deal of research at Cotton Incorporated and in conjunction with Cotton Council International to understand consumers' behaviors and attitudes and also what's happening at retail. So we have proprietary research we do. We also looked at secondary research. So I'm going to share a great deal of that research with you today from Cotton Incorporated's Lifestyle Monitor. So if we look at the research that we do among consumers in the U.S., we ask them, are they more likely to engage or be loyal to a brand if it offered them certain types of experiences? And so you're looking at percentages here for the first column. The percent of consumers who say they are more likely to be loyal to a brand who is engaging them in community activity and events, kind of like the Lululemon, holding events and making a community out of the brand for the consumers. It's 37% among the average consumer in the US, but that's significantly higher among that millennial cohort. It's 50%. So this is one way that they expect to shop. This is what they want the brands and the retailers to do with them. The same for those offering exclusive launch parties, making the consumer feel unique, like they get to see the products they have first before everybody else does. And connecting them, brand loyalists. For instance, if it's an activewear brand, when they bring together those who run, they're both loyal to the brand, but they also engage in different activities together, like also fitness classes and events. These both are activities consumers say, and millennials in particular, that they'd be more likely to be loyal to a brand that they offered. Now we're going to take a look at some numbers for fast fashion retailers. So we've seen those fast fashion retailers like H&M, Zara, Uniqlo growing over the past several years, over the past decade. And then in this chart, what you're looking at, unfortunately there's a kind of a line going through there. But we can see our sales and their growth over the past couple of years has been very positive. And you can also see their store counts continue to grow. Even in Colombia, you're expecting to get a H&M this year. So we know the fast fashion retailers are growing around the world and consumers are shopping them. The purpose of that fast fashion retailer, especially Zara, is that they're able to take a product from the beginning, from concept all the way to the store within 3 to 5 weeks. Not many brands or retailers are able to do that, and that's one way that they're able to compete and get consumers in their stores, because they have fashionable clothing often, rapidly in their stores for consumers to see something new and different when they come in. But, I'm going to go through. But what we see is that traditional brands like Ralph Lauren or Tommy Hilfiger or Rebecca Minkoff, for instance, they need to find a way to compete with these fast fashion retailers. So what they're starting to do is give the consumer the opportunity to buy their products straight off the runway. So if you're to go to New York Fashion Week and you see the model walking down the runway with the new fashion on, you can get up from your seat and go out to a pop-up shop and buy those styles right then and there. And that's the way some of these traditional brands are trying to compete with the fast fashion overall brands. So I'm going to show you a video right now of Topshop that's letting them buy on demand. Turn it up loud, yeah.
I think what makes retail is about fashion is catching up with how the world really is. There's a pop-up shop straight off the show for like a magical world. For a high street brand like Topshop, it's great that you can see it on the catwalk and get it straight away.
So what this really is building among consumers is this expectation to purchase things on demand. But let's think about the way we watch television. Do you all have Netflix? Netflix, Hulu, do you watch? Anytime you want to watch a movie, a TV show, all you do is you just turn it on and you can get it right then and there on demand. Even in the US, Amazon, we can get things delivered within an hour once we buy it on there if you're in a specific region or a city. So you can call a doctor and get prescriptions versus going in to see the doctor. So we're learning as consumers, especially these younger generations, we are learning how to purchase things instantly, on demand. And there's no difference with clothing, as consumers' expectations are, I should be able to get that on demand just like I do everything else. If it's a new fashion, I want it and I want it now. So from our research, what we see is that about 57% of average consumers say that they would like to have the opportunity to be able to buy their clothing on demand, just like they would stream a video off of Netflix when they're ready to. We see that's about 58% among women, a little bit higher among women than men. Latinos, about 63%. And the millennials, the generation we were talking about, it's more than 7 out of 10 millennial consumers have this expectation. So again, something important for brands and retailers trying to capture this audience, knowing that you need to be there for them when they're ready for you. Now we all know that social media is growing globally. And in these numbers, what you're looking at is the percent of consumers who use social media by country or region. And if we look globally, more than 1/3 of consumers do use social media. And in the US, for instance, that's about 58%. And around the world, you can see the numbers as well. But this is a great opportunity for brands and retailers to engage with the consumer, to help them learn about their product. And it's a way of selling to them. But keep in mind, millennials, they don't want to be sold to. They don't want just traditional marketing and you just saying, oh, here, buy this. They want you to give them something engaging, funny, new, or to help them, again, build a community, be a friend to them. So retailers and brands are trying to find a way to do that. For instance, the IKEA, which is a furniture store out of Sweden that's global, in their German store, they noticed that their Facebook likes and the ability to talk to the consumers had started to slow down. And they really weren't getting much back from the consumer or getting a lot of people to like them on Facebook. And so what they decided to do was kind of re-engage with the consumer. And they then, in the past couple of years, what they've done now is when consumers are on their Facebook page, if they're telling them a funny story, they laugh. If they ask a question, they answer it. If they tell them they had a baby, they tell them congratulations. They've truly become a friend to them. And they've really, as a retailer, a clothing store, they're talking to the consumer as if they're one of their best friends. And that's truly made the consumer become more loyal to them, make them want to bring more friends into the circle. And so it's helped them get the consumers into their store and buy more of their products overall. There's also, I'm going to show you a video now, a brand called Fruit of the Loom, men's underwear that's been around for over 100 years. And they wanted men to realize that they can be fashionable and innovative too. So they were trying to find a way to use social media to really get the men to laugh and come more onto their website. So what they decided to do was create a fake pair of high-end plastic pants called Plastique. And so they've created this video, they've even done lots of different things around it to basically show off their underwear, to get the consumers to want to buy more underwear and know that being comfortable underneath is just as important as being fashionable on the outside. So I'm going to show you the video now. So ultimately what this did to their business was it got about 37 million views and it increased their web page views by over 500%. So it did bring more consumers into their brand, learn more about it, and to be more likely to buy it. Now, we also know over the years, over the past decades, that the supply chain is shifting and changing. In the US, about 98% of what we sell at retail is imported. And there was a time where about half of that came from the Western Hemisphere, about half of that came from Asia, and then that started to shift more to Asia and continues to do so. So we start to see about 65% of products are imported from Asia and about 16% for the Western Hemisphere. But what we also see is that consumers are expecting more products on demand, like the fast fashion or things coming at one time instantly, but also being customized to what they want, specifically to their needs, not just mass like everybody else is getting. So brands and retailers are trying to find a way to get these products to the consumer much more quickly and even use some of the localization that the millennial generation is very interested in, having things local and coming from their local communities or their countries. So what we asked the consumers in our research is, what percent would agree with they'd be more loyal to a brand if they offered them more customization, gave them a unique product for themselves, and allowed them to choose different functions of that product or different colors. And we see that it's about 7 out of 10 consumers say that they would be more loyal to a brand that gave them opportunity to customize their clothing, and that's significantly higher among that millennial generation. Also, we know that about 47% of the average consumer says they'd like new styles once per month or more often. That's 70% of the millennial generation, so they're much more likely to want their fashion styles much more rapidly in the store. Because after all, they have grown up with fast fashion, so they expect that. And also, US made is about important to about 43% of consumers. That's lower among the millennials, about 22%. But when we put in there US cotton, what we see is that does increase among both the average shopper and the millennial to over half of millennials saying, if you tell me it's a local fiber, it's cotton, I know cotton, it's USA cotton, that means something to me. So that's what we see more consumers are interested in. So again, retailers and brands are trying to figure out how can we satisfy this consumer's need to get the products and the styles more quickly, to be able to customize it to fit their needs, their colors, their fit, and how can we get it quicker? So there's different brands and retailers trying to do things to make it closer to home, to be able to manufacture their things where they are. And I'm going to show you a video now. It's Under Armour, which is their headquarters is in Baltimore, Maryland in the United States. And they have created a lighthouse area where they can manufacture and customize some of the products for the consumers. So I'm going to show you a video of that now. It can be louder. Okay.
The concept of building our products closer to where our markets are.
This is a disruptive engine right inside of our.
We are pioneering the future. We are laying the groundwork for what a factory of the future is going to look like.
That's the ultimate vision, to make a product the likes of which the consumer has never seen before.
So they're trying to put this right in their backyard. They can customize, they can innovate, and they can make products to the consumer using a factory of the future. So this is kind of wrapping up the Retail 2030 section, and basically what we talked about here was just being able to build a relationship with the consumer beyond just a physical store or a website. Like Lululemon did, they created a community. They bring the consumers in, they create loyalty among them. Also, the on-demand shopping. Consumers are more and more likely to want to get things instantly. If they see it, they want it. If another retailer offers it, then they'll go there and get it if it's not available through the brand or retailer they're looking at. Also, it's important to inspire shoppers to complete the shopping journey with you. So we look at some of the social media use, like the underwear ads that are showing, look, this is important to you, come buy that with us, and we'll help you figure out how to be fashionable and comfortable in our clothing. So now we're going to talk about U.S. retail, and we'll talk about retailers in particular and how well they are performing. We've really seen some sluggish growth overall in the U.S., and I'm going to show you some numbers now. Looking at some of the top retailers, top 10 retailers in the U.S., and these are their sales of total sales, not just apparel. But what you see is their overall growth from 2014 to 15, and then from Q3 2015 to 16. And what you also see are a lot of negative percentages. So I'm only going to point out the positive ones. Mainly, if you look down, what you can see is TJX. It's right in the middle of the line. You probably can't read it. TJX, which is an off-price retailer of TJ Maxx, also home goods. Then if you keep going down, you can see Nordstrom. They have an uptick in their sales as well, but that's mainly due to Nordstrom Rack, which is also their off-price retailer, where they have lower priced clothing. And the last one is Ross, about 7% increase for them, which is also an off-price retailer. Now Walmart at the top, it has 1.2% growth, but that was mainly for its grocery business. And we also see there's been some layoffs there recently. Other retailers like Macy's, even Sears and Kmart, we know they're closing stores and shutting down. So there's been a lot of change and a lot of slow growth and lack of growth in some of the major retailers in the U.S., except for those off-price stores, which are growing. Now they may say this is due to the weather, it's due to Amazon taking over their business, it's due to many different things, and it can be. But I'm going to talk to you now about some other issues that are occurring that are definitely causing this negative effect on some of the major retailers in the U.S. What we see is that only about half of consumers in the U.S. say that they are loyal to a specific retailer. And the other half say they're really loyal to just discounts. They just want the best deal. We have conditioned U.S. consumers to shop on sale at a discount. And this is the way it's been for several decades now. And they are looking for the best deal overall. So the retailers are trying to compete on the lower prices and the better deals. What you're looking at in this chart right here is some retail research we do about the products that are being offered at retail. This is the percent that if you just walk into a store, this is the percent that's offered at a discount as you walk in. More than half of woven tops, denim jeans, non-denim pants, activewear are offered at a discount as soon as you walk in the store. Half of knit tops and 46% of women's dresses. That doesn't even include the coupons that you can get in the mail for the department stores or emails. I get about 100 emails a day from retailers offering today only 40% off. Oh, tomorrow 45% off. Or this. That's also on top of these being already discounted once you get in the store. So this is the way the brands and the retailers are trying to compete with each other, is based on price, because the consumers don't necessarily want to pay full price because they have never had to pay full price in the past 20 years. So we see that this is definitely cutting into the margins of brands and retailers, and this is making them lose money. But we ask consumers exactly how does this discounting, how do they relate to this? How is it important to them? So you can see in the numbers here that 56% of the average consumers in the US say that they're less loyal to brands if they're not offering sales. They feel like if they walk in a store and it's full price, they're ripping them off, basically. And you can see that's regardless of generation. Also, primarily buy clothing on sale. 3/4 of consumers say that's how they shop, primarily buying on sale. And 78%, however, say that they really do wish for one low price rather than deal. They don't want to go hunting for all the deals, but they want to get a deal. They feel like if they buy at full price, again, they're being ripped off, and they don't want to hunt for it. They would rather one low price. So if you think about off-price retailers, these are the stores that offer branded products at a discounted price. They already give you a label that has what the original price is and what the current asking price is at a discount. So when they walk in, they get one price. There's no more emails. There's not a coupon they have to bring. But they know they've gotten a discount. They know they're not paying full price. So it satisfies that need for the consumers when they go to the off-price retailers. But we know that that's not easy for a retailer who's been offering discounts for years. JCPenney tried to go to one single price and it did not work for them. It failed because the consumers expected discounts from them and they couldn't go back. They couldn't go back to offering one single price and the consumers still think that they're getting a good deal. Now, obviously that's cutting into margins. There's another thing that's taking away to some of these brands and retailers, and that's the fast fashion brands that retailers we were talking about before. Zara, H&M, they're growing tremendously and coming in to different markets and giving consumers what they want for a low price, and it's fashionable, and they're getting new fashions often. So we ask consumers how they feel about fast fashion. We see that about 58% of consumers prefer to buy new and different styles when they're shopping for their clothing. They're not just replacing the same pair of jeans they had before. They want something new and different. That's significantly higher among millennials, 67%. Also, 47% say they want new styles once per month or more often. They want it to be rapid. They want to be able to shop 2 times a month and get something different every time they go in the store. Again, significantly higher among millennials. That percent is 70%. I think you can't really see it there. And then shop for clothing at fast fashion retailers. About 1/3 of consumers say that they do this, the millennial consumers. So they're shopping there, buying this clothing at fast fashion. Again, they're saying that they're buying most of their clothing there. They're shopping other places as well, but this is kind of one of their main sources. And the fast fashion shoppers are actually different than the average shopper in the US. If we look at those fast fashion shoppers, this is where they mainly shop. They're mainly millennials. 2/3 of them are millennials. They are different in that they love and enjoy shopping, 80%. That's 25 percentage points higher than the average consumer. So they really have an affinity for shopping. They also, 64%, consider themselves to be fashion forward. So that's why they like the new and different styles often. 50% look to the internet to get their ideas before shopping in the store. Also, these consumers tend to spend 50% more than non-fast fashion shoppers. And this is certainly very important to the industry. Everybody wants to get more money from the consumer. And the fast fashion shoppers in the US is spending about $110 per month in each trip that they make, so it's adding up. 49% say they shop for clothes twice per month more often, as we were saying, and about 44% say they shop on impulse. When consumers shop on impulse, they do spend more money, so that is directly linked to the amount of money they're spending. And they shop on impulse because they can go in and see new and different styles and see things they didn't realize were there, so it keeps them interested and engaged in shopping, which is very important to get the consumers' money. Now, Amazon is an issue for brands and retailers in the US. Traditionally, it just started as a replenishment. You could just replace that same pair of jeans, you know what size it is, you know what brand it is, you know how it fits, just go on, order it, and you get it shipped to your house. But what we see is that while they've accounted for about 7% of overall apparel or fashion sales in the US, that's expected to increase to 20% by 2020. And that's because they started to offer their own private label brands. So what Amazon has done is that they've taken advantage of the consumer's information. When they come on to shop for clothing, what they know is what they've replenished, and then they know what they're searching for. They know what they're looking for but can't find other places, and they've started to include that in their private label brand so they can offer consumers what they want. Also, they're doing more live streaming so they can see fashion shows, they can be part of this, and then they can just order it right off of Amazon. And Amazon Prime is you can sign up, pay $100 a year, and all your shipping is free. Sometimes it can come in an hour if you're in the right city. So it gives consumers the ability to try clothing without having to pay more for it. They don't have to pay shipping costs. Now, while we know that Amazon is growing and that consumers like to be online and looking at clothing, not all most purchases are still made in the physical store. And we do know there are parts of the consumer's journey when shopping for clothing that they do want to do online, and there's parts they prefer to do in store. In this chart, what you're looking at is the percent who say they prefer to do this type of activity in the store, that's in the green, and in the gray, you can see the percent who say they prefer to do that online. So in that first pie chart, what you see is doing their research, learning about the products, looking for the new styles, seeing where they can buy it. Most consumers prefer to do that online, go online and do all the searching first. But then when they're ready to ask questions, when they're ready to feel it, try it on, they mostly prefer to go do that in the physical store. 76% prefer to actually make the purchase in the physical store. And then even repeat purchases, most say they go back to the physical store. So online plays a crucial role in the initial purchase behavior of the consumers. They find what they want, they find a good deal, they find that all online before they ever step foot into the physical store. That's why it's important for brands and retailers to have a presence online and to be talking to the consumers and engaging them before they ever get to the store, because they've already made up their mind many times when they step in it. Now, we do know that consumers, where do they like to shop online, do their research online, but buy in the physical store. So we asked them, where exactly do you get your ideas when you're shopping for clothing online or when you're doing your research online? You can see about 45% say they like to go to the actual retailers' websites. So if they have specific retailers they like to go on and look at the Banana Republic site, then they can go on there first. Also, social media plays an important role. 35% say Facebook. Then we see that followed by Pinterest, and Instagram is where they tend to get their ideas and do their research for clothing. And e-commerce sites like Amazon actually is lower on the list, with about 26% saying that's where they get their ideas overall. Now, there's other things that are going to attribute to the brands and the retailers not being able to give consumers exactly what they need. When we ask consumers, what's your most important attributes when shopping for clothing, what do you look for? Fit is the number one issue, the number one thing that they want to know about a product. A pair of jeans, a t-shirt, a dress, that's what they want to know first before they buy it. And you can see the percent who say fit is number one when they're buying underwear, 88%, casual pants, 73%. You can see the rest. It's very important to them. But what we also find is that consumers, their number one complaint about a product is that it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit right. It didn't fit correctly. It was too short. It was too long. It didn't fit around the waist, but it was too tight in the legs. It didn't fit. It's a never-ending issue trying to create products that fit everybody that are such different body types. So this is a challenge for the brands and retailers trying to make things fit, and the consumers, it's their number one issue overall. So many brands and retailers are trying to figure out, how can we help with this fit issue? So for example, Victoria's Secret, they noticed that their bra sales were declining. And so they did a little more research among the millennial consumers, and what they found was that more of them were tending to wear sports bras rather than the traditional padded bras. And so what they decided to do was create a new product, and they made it, you can see here, it's called a bralette. And what it did was it had the comfort of a sports bra, but it had the look of a more traditional bra, which gave the consumer the best of both worlds. So not only was it pretty, it was comfortable, and now they see this is one of their highest selling items among millennials. So that was one way that they worked with the fit issue among consumers. Also, Lululemon, we mentioned them before, that Canadian brand who began focusing on women, and they actually opened the eyes of Under Armour, of Nike, of Adidas to really focus on the women as well, because women like to exercise too and like to wear active apparel, so that helped them increase their business and know that was a viable market for them. But Lululemon now is focusing on men. They want men to be about a third of their products in the next several years. So they're trying to figure out what will work for men, what kind of fit do they need, and what can we do to give them a product that they prefer, a Lululemon product versus a Nike or an Adidas product. So they've come up with their ABC pants. I'm not going to explain it to you. I will let the video explain it to you. This is one of their highest selling pants because obviously it is meeting a fit need that men want in their pants. So I'm assuming this is. So that's important, fit being a major issue and trying to get the retailers to understand the consumers better and how they can really give them something that works. Now another product and things that if we talk about Lululemon, it's activewear. If we think about performance apparel overall, activewear is mainly the market for performance features like moisture management, like thermal regulation. But what we ask consumers, and they see the benefit in activewear, is do you see a benefit of having performance features in other clothing like your personal or like your casual clothing or even your business clothing, which could, if you had moisture management, if you had odor resistance, if you had thermal regulation, this could be a benefit as you're going through your daily life. When you're giving a presentation, maybe you need some moisture management or odor resistance as you're up here in front of people. So we ask consumers, is this something you'd be interested in? And you can see for casual wear, about 53% of consumers say yes, they would be interested in having an odor resistant or moisture management finish for their casual wear products. About 44% would be interested in having it for their business wear products. So while it's not a huge percent of consumers, it's still a large portion because the number of products that are being offered in the casual wear and business wear clothing that have performance features like this is very small. So there's definitely an opportunity to give the consumers more of the performance features that they would like in these markets. There's also technology. If we look at all the competition that consumers have for their money, it's not just other brands. It's not just buying jeans versus activewear pants. It's also buying healthcare, shopping, or eating out, buying food at the grocery store, getting your education, buying a new smartphone. These are all the things that compete with the money we want consumers to be spending on clothing. And it's difficult. If we look over the next several years, what we see is actually money as a share of consumers' expenditures on apparel is actually declining. Healthcare is increasing, electronics are increasing, all these other increasing. So how can clothing overall compete in these markets? So we know electronics, consumers like that. So wearing technology, how can we make clothing really be a part of that tech age of consumers? So we ask consumers, would you be interested in wearing technology in your clothing, like something that monitors your hydration or monitors your heart rate or aids in exercise? But we see from 3 out of 10 to almost 5 out of 10 consumers say yes, they would be. It's still a little iffy among consumers because it's not out there very much, and they're questioning what can it do for them. But we do see those consumers who tend to wear like Fitbits or they have some kind of wearable technology already, they're much more likely to say yes, they like this technology and they want it in their clothing. So there's definitely a lot of brands and retailers that are trying to work on this now. There's not a great deal in the market, but they're trying to develop some. There are some things in the market, like Levi's. They have a jacket that you can swipe your phone or control your devices from, or even there's some different ones that will monitor your biometrics, your heart rate, your breathing. And there's also a company out of Australia that does wearable technology, and they've created things like yoga pants, that you wear those yoga pants, and while you're performing your yoga positions, if you're not doing it quite correctly, then it will vibrate to let you know you need to change position or readjust to make sure you're doing it correctly. They've also created a jersey for a fan of football, and this is American football, not the football in Colombia, to be able to kind of participate like a member of the football team. Like you're going to feel what the player on the field is feeling. If they're running into somebody or experiencing an emotion, you feel it if you wear this jersey. So I'm going to play a video for you so you can take a look.
So as a wearable tech company, we've decided to use the skin as an interface, which means that we send emotions direct to the skin using haptic feedback. Our fan jersey connects you to the emotions of your favorite sports team.
You're able to feel all the positive things that are happening with your most favorite team live.
Pretty cool stuff. Whatever the football player feels, you feel. The vibration will happen on your jersey simultaneously with the player on the field. The idea, like, I know what you're about.
So what happens is you select which team you want to follow inside the app. And then when you selected the team, you get the sensations of what that team is going through, whether it's heartbeat or acceleration, any sort of excitement that happens when they score a touchdown. You then feel that excitement live as the game is happening.
So it's not only helping them experience wear technology, it's kind of like a game for them as well. So that's kind of the end to the US portion of the presentation. So what we see is that a lot of structural changes, new and different retailers, kind of sales, discounts, are really affecting the retailers in the US and their businesses overall. What we also see is that it's important, though, to have a presence online, to be able to be where the consumers are when they're doing their research and making their decisions about what it is exactly they want to buy when they go to the store. You need to be there first and foremost, because once they get to the store, they already have an idea of what they want. So now we're going to go into the final section of the presentation, which is focus a little more on the US millennials. And we'll talk about pricing and promotions, sustainable expectations, even looking at labels and kind of the overload and some of the information available to them. And then, as I mentioned, I'll talk about the next generation, the centennials, just at the end. So we've talked about promotions and discounts and lots of things earlier in the presentation. But this is also talking about the way consumers are shopping. During the recession about a decade ago, what we found from the generations X and the boomers, the older generations, they really started to reassess the way they shop for clothing. They had to become more pragmatic. They had to plan more of their purchases and buy less on impulse because they had less money to spend. And when the millennials came along, the expectation was, or as they started to get more money and we started to recover from the recession, the expectation was that they would start to buy more on impulse and be in the retailers more. But what we see is they tend to be just as pragmatic shoppers as the older generations as well. So in this research, what we asked the consumers were, do they tend to shop and buy an outfit at a single store or go to multiple stores to find the outfit and buy pieces here and there? You can see that about 78% of millennials say they tend to shop different stores for different pieces of clothing. Like I may have bought this shirt at one store, I bought my skirt at another store, my shoes somewhere else. I'm not shopping one store solely for my outfit, which helps me find the best deals. And obviously I can find what I want, but I can also get discounts for their offer. Also, do you plan versus buying on impulse? We can see about 65% of millennials do mostly plan shopping overall, unless they're fast fashion shoppers, and then we see that they're more likely to be buying on impulse. And we see that's also true for the older generations as well. But we also know that consumers, about half of the millennials, are willing to sacrifice a little bit of quality in their clothing to get a better price, to pay less overall for the product. But we can see, while those were similar, generations shop similar ways, we do see that the millennials tend to shop a little bit differently when they're looking for some of those deals. So you can see in the first one that this is the percent of consumers who look for deals on their smartphone when shopping in store. So it's about 59% of millennials, significantly higher than Generation X or boomers. Also, the millennials are more likely to say that they follow brands on social media to receive the deals. So when you have a video like the Fruit of the Loom underwear video, you can share that with the millennials on their social media and really engage them, because that's what they're looking at, most of them, almost half actually. And about 42% say that actually this vast array of deals, like so many deals, are kind of overwhelming to them. So yes, I like to go to get a good deal, but when I'm getting 50 emails, when I'm getting all these it's so difficult sometimes to find a great fitting pair of jeans. It's what we hear from a lot of women. If it flattered my figure, if it made me look so good that I couldn't, take it off, I had to buy and pay full price, then consumers are willing to do that. Also, if it's multifunctional, that means if it's a product that I can wear for both casual wear, I can wear it to work, I can wear it for different activities, I get a lot of value from it, and that I can see is worth the price I'm going to pay for it. Also durability, quality, and even natural fibers, because we see a tendency toward natural. This is where consumers say they can see a value in paying full price if the product is what they want. But when it comes to sustainability, we tend to hear that millennials are very interested in environmentally friendly. This is very important to them. And I'm not disagreeing that it is, but if we look at the generations and the percent saying that these are concerns to them, like food safety, child labor, water and air quality, what you can see is that the older generations are significantly more likely to say that they are concerned about these issues. And that's because they're thinking about their children, they're thinking about their grandchildren, and they're leaving this earth to them, and they want it to be good for them, and it's starting to concern them when they think about what things are happening. But what we do see from the millennials is that global warming tends to be higher on their list, or not higher on their list, but seems to be even with the older generations, because that's something that children learn in school, and the millennials learned in school. I know my children are centennials, they're learning in school now, but also recycling, they're getting a lot of information on it, and it's becoming more important to them. And as we mentioned, overall, the expectations, sustainable expectations, when they're actually shopping for clothing, we talked about fit being the number one issue. Primary, comfort, price, quality, durability, style, that's really what consumers want first and foremost when they're shopping for a clothing item. These are the most important attributes they look for. Secondly, is going to be color, softness, some of those performance features. And then in the third bucket, or the tertiary concerns, we see that's where sustainability comes up. So it's not necessarily a purchase driver. If they see a shirt, two shirts, one may be a little more sustainable, but it's a much higher price, they can't necessarily justify paying a higher price for some things. But we can tell you that the expectation that brands and retailers are offering sustainable and environmentally friendly products is there. They expect it to already be in the clothing that they're buying. So while a consumer says, I'm not actually seeking out environmentally friendly clothing, but if I find out your brand or your retailer has produced an item that is not sustainable, then I will blame you. So this is why it's important. This is a very important issue. And we ask consumers, well, tell us what exactly is sustainable to you? What do you look for? And what we see is fiber comes up first. They say 100% cotton. When I see that label and I know cotton, I think of cotton as being sustainable and natural. And so you can see that the millennials are significantly more likely to blame the store, the store and the brand overall, while the older generations are more likely to be blaming the manufacturer. So as I mentioned, we asked the consumers, what is it that you look for to tell you something sustainable? Fiber tends to resonate at the top, 100% cotton is in that. So of course we want to understand, what do consumers think when they're thinking of cotton? And we can see that cotton versus other fibers, man-made fibers like rayons or polyesters, consumers overwhelmingly, regardless of generation, consider cotton to be the most comfortable, sustainable, trustworthy, versatile, and durable fiber. So this is really top of mind to them because they tend to know cotton, they know it's a natural fiber that's grown, a plant that's grown, and so then they see this, when they see the label, it resonates with them. So we ask the consumers, before purchasing clothing, when you're making a purchase, what exactly do you do to learn about this item? And first and foremost, what we see is they check the price. They want to know, can they buy it, of course. Secondly, they try it on, make sure it's going to fit, then they're going to touch, feel it, see if it's soft, see if it's cotton, of course. And then they check the content label. if they can find it. Sometimes it's difficult for consumers to find the label on products, depending on where it is or how large the print is. And then they're looking for their coupons and their discounts. So what we see also is that consumers are saying, fiber is important to me, but sometimes I don't always think to look at the label. Then I get the product home, I think I bought cotton, I try to wash it, it falls apart, then I found out it was rayon, it didn't work, and I didn't know, it was disappointing. But we asked the consumers, are you more loyal to a brand that tells you or educates you on the fiber? And we do see that significant amounts of consumers, especially millennials, are more likely to want education and to look for a fiber label. But even the seals are more likely to tell them this is a product that you're looking for, this is cotton. So at Cotton Incorporated, we actually do advertising to the consumers. We promote to U.S. consumers. And what we try to do is to make them aware of cotton, to make it top of mind to them by our television campaign, by our internet, social media, to really help them remember when you're shopping for clothing, take a look at the label and make sure that you're buying cotton. Because we know from our research, it's their preferred fiber of millennials. More than 7 out of 10 say that's their number one fiber that they want. And so we want them to be happy with their product overall. We want the retailers and the brands to benefit from their products being the ones that consumers want. But we wanted to understand how can we ease that shopping experience for the consumer when it's difficult to find labels or they don't think about it. And so we've done some research to better understand how the seal helps them with that journey. So the seal of cotton, as you can see on the screen here, we asked the U.S. consumer, how does that work for them? 89% say the seal helps to identify cotton products. We know that more than 8 out of 10 U.S. consumers recognize the seal, and it's one of the most recognized seals in the U.S. 80% say the brand using the seal helps inform my buying decisions overall. And 77% of millennials say that any brand using the seal makes my buying decision easier because it helps me. I see, yep, I like this product, it fits, it's the price I want. Oh, and it's cotton. I know that's natural. That's, the product I like. Perfect. So it kind of helps ease that shopping journey for them. So now we're going to end on we talked about millennials. Everybody talks about millennials, and they are a very important generation. They are the largest generation. They have a lot of spending power, and their attitudes have shifted over the years. They have grown up with only technology, and they know how to use it. They have adopted it, and they continue to use it when they're shopping and participating in their social media sites. But there's another generation coming right under them, the Generation Z or the Centennials. And as they continue to grow, they're becoming a large generation as well. And not only are they've only known technology, they've only known mobile devices. So what we see is they are shopping even differently than others, or more so than the millennials. So it's important for brands and retailers to start working with this generation now as well, building a loyalty. We see some brands, like some of the activewear brands, going into high schools with this Generation Z, already trying to help them with their sports teams and the things that they're doing to help build that loyalty now. So when they get more money as they start to age, they're going to think of their brand first. So how do the generations shop now? We know 68% say they browse on a smartphone when they're shopping for their clothing. 63% are willing to sacrifice quality for a better price. 51% like shopping for clothes. This is significantly lower than the millennials. So this could be a challenge for the textile and apparel industry, because if they're less likely to shop for clothing because they're more interested in their smartphones, they're more interested in their video games and all their electronic devices, it's important that clothing can be there top of mind for them, and brands and retailers need to start now to figure out how to get them back into wanting clothing and fashion. 51% they say they use social media for ideas. So as we talked about before, social media is becoming an even more important place for you to engage with the consumers, to entertain them, to be their friend, not just trying to sell to them, because that's a turnoff and they'll start to not look at it anymore. So with that, this is really the end of the presentation. Just take away that it's important overall to know that sustainability is important to the consumers, but it's not necessarily a main purchase driver for them. But things like having a natural fiber like cotton can help ease that journey with a logo. Logos and education, again, helps ease the journey. But it's also important, as we said, build a relationship. It's not just about selling. It's about engaging, and consumers need more of that today than they ever have before. So with that, I'm going to end. I'm more than happy to answer any questions if you have any, and I'll be here for a little while after if you prefer just to talk to me. Thank you very much.